Once upon a time, in the quiet village of Ochanya Ogbanje, somewhere in Benue State, lived a bright young girl named Ochanya Ogbanje. Her name, Ochanya, meaning queen, and truly, she carried herself with the grace and curiosity of one. She was strong-willed, gentle, and full of wonder. Her laughter was the kind that could fill a compound and make even the tired farmer smile. Though her parents were not rich, their hearts were full. Life in their small mud house was simple. Evenings were for telling stories. Mornings were for chasing dreams. And in the center of it all was Ochanya, a little girl with big eyes and even bigger dreams. She wanted to go to school, to learn, and someday become a doctor, so she could help people get well. But life has a way of testing the strong. One season, her mother's health worsened. The little savings the family had went into hospital visits and medicine. School for now had to wait. Yet, hope came wearing a familiar face. Aunty Felicia, her mother's sister. Aunty Felicia lived in Ubokulu, a small town not too far away. She was married, had children, and worked at a higher institution nearby. When she visited the village and saw how determined Ochanya was about her studies, she offered to take her in so she could continue schooling. It felt like a lifeline, an answered prayer. So one sunny morning, with a small bag of clothes and a heart full of dreams, Ochanya left home with her aunt. Her parents hugged her tightly and told her to study hard, promising her that one day her success would light up their home again. When they arrived in Ubokulu, Ochanya was amazed. The roads were busier, the houses larger, and the air filled with sounds of cars and laughter. At home, she met Mr. Ogbanje, her aunt's husband, and their children, Victor and Winifred. They welcomed her kindly. The house was warm, and Ochanya quickly adapted. She helped with chores, fetched water, and prepared meals when her auntie was busy. But she never lost sight of her dream. Every morning, she dressed neatly for school, her uniform clean, her books carefully arranged. Her teachers described her as quiet but brilliant, always eager to learn. Her classmates saw her as cheerful and kind-hearted. For a while, everything seemed perfect. But then, things began to change. What should have been a refuge became a haunting place of silence and pain. It all started with Victor, her cousin. At first, it was the uncomfortable way he looked at her, or how he found excuses to be around her when others were not home. He started behaving weird towards her, fondling her, and even being in her room when no one was watching in the dead of the night. One day, her cousin Winifred walked into a moment she was never meant to see, or let me say, never meant to happen. She saw her brother Victor behaving towards Ochanya in a way no brother should and no one should ever. It was confusing, wrong, and frightening. For a while, she stood frozen, not sure what to do or say. Then she ran to her mother, trembling, and told her everything she had seen. Her mother, Aunty Felicia, was shocked and heartbroken. She called Victor and demanded an explanation. Voices were raised, tears flowed. When her husband, Mr. Andrew Ogbanje, returned later that day, she told him about it, expecting he would do the right thing. At first he did. He was angry, so angry that his words shook the house. He scolded Victor harshly, asking how he could bring such shame upon the family. But instead of seeking real help or protection for Ochanya, the conversation ended with a warning.
"This must never leave this house,"
Mr. Ogbanje said.
"People won't understand. They will destroy us."
And with that, silence settled over the home. The matter was buried, not solved. But as days turned into weeks, something darker began to happen. The same man who once scolded his son began visiting Ochanya's room too often, speaking softly but with eyes that carried a weight she didn't understand. In time, the little girl who once sang through her chores grew silent, avoiding his gaze. Something precious in her was slowly being taken, and no one seemed to care. Ochanya's body became the battleground for unspeakable things. Her innocence stolen by the very people who were meant to protect her. A man and his son. For years, she carried her secret like a wound that no one could see, too afraid to speak, too young to understand. Then one day, her body could no longer carry the burden. Ochanya fell ill. At first, everyone thought it was just a passing sickness. Maybe malaria, maybe typhoid. She had been looking weak, sleeping more, speaking less. Her once lively steps became slow. Her laughter faded completely. Teachers at school noticed her absence. Friends asked after her, but she was too tired to explain. Each day, the pain in her small body grew heavier. Her body was carrying too much pain for her age. Soon, the truth began to unfold. The doctors discovered that the long period of mistreatment she had endured in the hands of Victor and his father had left her with a serious internal condition known as VVF, the vesical vaginal fistula. In simpler terms, it meant that a part of her body had been badly hurt inside, causing her great discomfort and making it hard for her to live normally. The doctors were heartbroken. Her parents were devastated. Her mother, holding her frail hands, could only whisper prayers. Ochanya had bravely narrated what she had experienced in the hands of her supposed uncle and cousin. It was a story too heavy for a child to tell. Yet she spoke, hoping someone would listen, hoping her truth would matter. Sadly, not long after, Ochanya closed her eyes forever. She never lived to become the doctor she dreamed of being. But even in death, her voice refused to be silenced. Her story became a cry for justice that echoed across Nigeria and the world. Days in court turned into weeks. Weeks became months, and months stretched into years. There were delays, appeals, and moments when it seemed justice might never come. But her name, Ochanya, continued to rise in conversations, petitions, and protests. People marched with her pictures, teachers told her story, and journalists kept her memory alive. Finally, after years of waiting, the court spoke. In April 2022, a high court in Makurdi acquitted Andrew Ogbuja of the 4-count charge of conspiracy, rape, and causing the death of Ochanya. The court said there wasn't enough evidence to prove he was guilty beyond reasonable doubt, and so he walked free. But in a separate trial, his wife, Aunty Felicia, the woman who had brought Ochanya from her village into their home, was found guilty of negligence. The court ruled that she had failed in her duty to protect the young girl placed in her care. She was sentenced to 5 months in prison. And the other figure at the heart of it all, Victor, the son, was said to be at large. To this day, he has not faced trial for his alleged role in the tragedy that ended Ochanya's life. 7 years later, the name Ochanya Ogbanje still stirs something in the hearts of many. Her story may have faded from headlines, but never from memory. Her memory calls for justice. How many Ochanyas are still out there? How many children are living their pain in silence? How many voices are waiting for someone to listen? Until the day those questions no longer need asking, until every home becomes a safe place for a child to dream, justice for Ochanya must never fade. Justice for Ochanya.